The Galactic Academy's training hall fell silent as Instructor Zarthok's hand connected with Melissa's face. The crack echoed through the chamber like a gunshot, reverberating off the crystalline walls designed to withstand plasma fire. 50 cadets from a dozen species froze mid-exercise, their training weapons hanging limeless in the recycled air. Melissa's head snapped to the side, a thin line of crimson appearing at the corner of her mouth. The human female stood motionless for a heartbeat, too, through her dark hair obscuring her expression. Zarthok, a towering Varaxian with chitinous armor plating and forearms, loomed over her like a monument to martial supremacy. His breathing apparatus an ornate filtration mask that covered the lower half of his face hissed with satisfaction. "Perhaps now you will learn respect." "Human," Zarthok growled, the translator embedded in his mask, rendering his words into standard galactic. "Your species may have clawed its way into the collective, but here you follow my protocols." Burok tensed from his position across the training floor. The Turkish cadet's knuckles whitened around his plasma staff, every muscle in his body screaming at him to intervene. But he'd seen that look on Melissa's face before back on the transport from Earth, when a Keltorian dignitary had suggested humans were only accepted into the academy as a diversity initiative. She'd smiled then, too. Melissa slowly turned her head back to face the instructor, and Burok watched Zarthok's four eyes widen behind his mask. Blood stained her teeth as her smile spread wider, feral and utterly unafraid. The other cadets shuffled nervously. Humans were new to the Galactic Collective, only 15 years since first contact, and their reputation was ... complicated. "Instructor," Melissa said, her voice carrying clearly through the hall despite its softness. "You just made 3 critical errors." Zarthok's mandibles clicked with amusement beneath his mask. "Is that so, cadet? Enlighten me." "First," Melissa continued, rolling her shoulders in a way that made Burok's combat instincts scream a warning, "you assumed human physiology follows the same pain-to-incapacitation ratio as the Varaxian species. We don't." Her hand moved. Not quickly. Quantum displacement drives moved quickly. Plasma bolts moved quickly. Melissa's hand moved in a way that seemed to simply ignore the concept of acceleration, transitioning from stillness to striking position, as if the universe had skipped several frames of reality. Zarthok's breathing mask shattered. The instructor stumbled backward, all 4 hands clutching at his face as fragments of the intricate device scattered across the training floor. His breathing, no longer filtered through the apparatus, became ragged and desperate. The atmosphere in the academy was perfect for most species, but Varaxians required higher nitrogen concentrations. Without his mask, Zarthok had perhaps 10 minutes before respiratory distress set in. "Second error," Melissa said, her stance relaxed but ready. "You hit a student in full view of recording systems. The Academy board will love reviewing that footage." Burok couldn't suppress his grin. Every training session was recorded ostensibly for performance review, but also for exactly this type of situation. Instructors were forbidden from striking students. The collective's educational protocols were absolute. Zarthok's breathing grew more labored, his compound eyes darting between Melissa and the shattered remains of his mask. Around them, cadets began to murmur. A Feltorian, cat-like and calculating, started recording with her personal device. Others followed suit. You animal," Zarthok wheezed, reaching for his emergency respirator at his belt. "Assault on an instructor ... expulsion." "Criminal charges." "Third error," Melissa interrupted, and now her voice carried the weight of Earth's gravity, of a species that had survived ice ages and world wars and its own worst impulses. "You assumed compliance was the same as weakness." She stepped closer, and despite his size advantage, Zarthok retreated. "I came here to learn," Melissa continued, her words measured and precise. "To train, to prove that humanity deserves its place among the stars. I didn't question your methods, your protocols, or your authority. I merely asked politely if the neural conditioning exercise could be modified to account for human psychology. Our amygdalae process threat responses differently. The current settings could cause permanent neurological damage." Burok nodded, remembering the briefing. 3 human cadets had already washed out of other training programs. Due to psychological instability, Academy speak for brain damage caused by alien-designed neural interfaces. "And for that question," Melissa said, her voice dropping to something cold and sharp, "you struck me, you humiliated me, you tried to break me in front of my peers to demonstrate Varaxian superiority." Zarthok finally secured his emergency respirator over his face, the smaller device providing minimal but sufficient oxygen. His 4 eyes blazed with fury, but beneath it, Burok detected something else. Fear. So here's what happens next, Melissa stated, her tone shifting to something almost conversational. You're going to the medical bay to get a proper respirator. I'm going to the administration office to file an official complaint. The board will review the footage, see you assault a student, and terminate your contract. You'll return to the Varaxian hegemony, disgraced, having lost a prestigious academy position. She tilted her head, considering, and hear me out too, could apologize. Right now, in front of everyone, acknowledge that you were wrong, that you let species-based prejudice cloud your judgment, and that you will treat human cadets with the same respect afforded to any other species in this academy. The training hall had gone so quiet Burok could hear his own heartbeat. 50 cadets from a dozen worlds held their collective breath. This wasn't just about one instructor's abuse, this was about humanity's place in the collective, about whether Earth's people would bow to established hierarchies or forge their own path. Zarthok's mandibles worked silently behind his emergency respirator. His forearms trembled, whether from oxygen deprivation or rage, Burok couldn't tell. The instructor's compound eyes swept across the assembled cadets, seeing the recording devices, the witnesses, the undeniable evidence of his violation. Finally, with all the grace of a collapsing star, Zarthok lowered his head. Apologize, Cadet Melissa, he rasped through the respirator. My actions were inappropriate and violated academy protocols. It will not happen again. Melissa's smile softened, became almost kind. Thank you, Instructor. I appreciate your integrity in acknowledging your mistake. She bent down, collected several fragments of the shattered breathing mask, and held them out to him. I believe the fabrication lab can repair this by tomorrow. In the meantime, I'd recommend filing an incident report. Wouldn't want anyone to think a human broke your mask without provocation. Zarthok took the fragments with one trembling hand, his eyes unreadable. He turned and walked toward the exit with as much dignity as his species could muster while struggling to breathe as the door sealed behind him. Chaos erupted in the training hall. Cadets swarmed Melissa, some congratulating her, others demanding to know how she'd moved so fast. Still others already uploading footage to the Academy's social networks. Burok pushed through the crowd and gripped Melissa's shoulder. That was either the bravest or stupidest thing I've ever seen. She dabbed at her still bleeding lip with her sleeve. Probably both, but someone had to draw the line. If we let them treat us like inferior species now, it'll never stop. You know this isn't over, Burok said quietly. Zarthok has allies. The Varaxian delegation will push back. Melissa's grin returned, sharp and defiant. Let them. Humanity didn't claw its way out of Earth's gravity well just to bow before aliens who think might makes right. We've seen where that leads. We wrote the history books on it. She looked around at the assembled cadets, Feltorians, Keltorians, Zynthians, even a few Varaxians who watched with complex expressions. Besides, I think some of them are starting to understand. Humans don't break easy, and we really don't like bullies. Burok laughed, the sound carrying genuine warmth. The galaxy has no idea what it's gotten itself into, does it? Not even close, Melissa agreed, her dark eyes reflecting the training hall's artificial lights like stars. But they're learning, one broken mask at a time.